Brothers and sisters, the age of man is at an end. We have become too many.
Prior to the release of Dead Space 3, I felt like the series was a good candidate for a current-gen survival horror game. There were some really good jump scares, the atmosphere was creepy, and believe it or not, the inventory management system actually added to the intensity of the game and totally made me feel like there was a sense of survival. But after playing Dead Space 3, I've realized that the series isn't necessarily a survival horror game anymore. It's more or less of an action third-person shooter. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, since Dead Space 3 manages to keep some elements of the previous games that I've loved while adding in new ideas. The story takes place in 2514. There's this unitologist group known as the Inner Circle that's going around destroying marker test labs in order to spread the necromorph virus. They're also looking for Isaac Clarke. They know that Isaac has this relationship with these markers and he's able to decipher whatever it is that's going on with them. So it's up to Isaac to get rid of the Inner Circle and to save the human race from this nasty virus. For the most part, I enjoyed the story. I don't think it was as impactful as the previous Dead Space games, but it definitely served its purpose.
No. I'm done with that. You find somebody else for your suicide mission.
We did. Before we lost contact with her. She told us to find you.
When it comes to the gameplay, I think that Dead Space 3 follows suit with the other games in the series, but there's definitely some notable changes. You can still dismember necromorphs' limbs with weapons, but this time around you can do it with a local or online co-op partner named John Carver. Being able to play online or locally with someone else is a nice addition, especially if you're playing as John Carver. You'll be able to experience something different from Isaac Clarke. But with that being said, I do think that when you play co-op, it makes the game a lot easier. You and your co-op partner are just overpowered together and you're blasting through enemies left and right. Another new feature is the weapon crafting. Now throughout the game you'll come across resources and blueprints that can be used at benches to craft weapons and attachments. And if you're playing co-op, you can go to these benches and share your resources and blueprints and items with your co-op partner. It took me a little while to get used to this new crafting system, but once I did, I actually enjoyed it. I found myself experimenting and building new weapons to see which one would be most effective in certain spots. The pacing has definitely changed in this game. Now there's times where it's slow and the tension just builds up, but majority of the time it's just fast paced. Especially the last third of the game, it felt like a third-person cover-based shooter. The presentation seems a little off this time around, at least graphically, and that might have something to do with the lack of variety in the environments. I found myself really liking the snow-based environments just because they were something different, but the rest of the game basically just takes place in labs, and those labs look rather generic and really didn't offer too much personality. The sound design, on the other hand, was excellent. I mean, there were times where I was just on the edge of my seat because I could hear necromorphs screaming in the vents or creeping up behind me and I couldn't see them. It was great.
Warning. Contamination detected. Quarantine.
There's plenty of value to be had in Dead Space 3. It took me over 25 hours to complete the single-player campaign. I found myself exploring the environments a lot since there's plenty of text and voice logs scattered throughout the environments. There's also artifacts that are hidden and you can try to find those as well. Plus there's side missions in this game and I really enjoyed the side missions. The side missions I felt had a lot of personality. So I'm just going to be upfront and say that Dead Space 3 is my least favorite game in the series. By no means is this a bad game. I think it's quite a good game. I mean, I totally recommend it. But it just feels like it's lost its spark that I love. I'm happy that Visceral Games took a risk and added some new features to change things up in the series. But I honestly think that these new features might be the beginning of the series losing its identity. I want to thank all of you for watching this video, and I'll check you next time.